All right, today we're diving into something we do all day, every day, usually without even thinking about it. Communication. We're going to connect the dots from the basic theory all the way to a practical toolkit you can start using right away to make every conversation, email, and meeting actually count. So let's get into it.
So let's kick things off with a number that kind of puts everything into perspective. 75%. Yeah, research shows that managers spend about 3/4 of their entire day just communicating. Think about that for a second. That's not time spent doing solo work at a desk. It's all about sending and receiving ideas. It just goes to show you this isn't some soft skill. It is the core skill for getting anything done with other people.
So what exactly is communication, anyway? Well, if you look at where the word comes from, it gives you a huge clue. It's from the Latin word communis, which means common. And that's the whole point, right? To create common ground. It's about taking an idea that's in your head and getting that same idea to pop up in someone else's head. If you can't do that, you're just making noise. But when you get it right, you've created a genuinely shared understanding.
Okay, so we know the goal is shared understanding. Now let's really dig into why getting there is so incredibly important. I mean, it's not just the lifeblood of a company. You could argue it's the lifeblood of our entire society.
You know, communication is always doing a bunch of jobs at once. On the surface, sure, it's the oil in the machine. It's how a manager's brilliant plan actually becomes something the team does. But if you look deeper, it's so much more. It's the invisible glue that builds relationships. It's what shapes how the public sees a company. Heck, it even helps us make sense of our own world and organize our thoughts. Without it, you don't have a team or a culture. You just have a bunch of people working in the same building.
This quote absolutely nails it. Communication isn't like throwing a dart at a board and walking away. It's a continuous feedback loop. You send a message, sure, but the process isn't done until you get something back. And get this, even getting silence is a response. It's telling you something loud and clear. If you're only focused on what you're saying, you're missing at least half of the conversation.
So if communication is this constant flow, how does information actually move around inside a company? It's not totally random. It actually moves through some very clear networks. Some are official and, well, some are very, very unofficial. First up in the formal network, you've got downstream communication. This is the classic top-down flow, right? Management sends out policies, decisions, new instructions. All of it flows down to the employees. The key thing to remember about this channel is that it's built for speed and efficiency.
Now, the flow going the other way, upstream, is a completely different story. This is when employees send feedback, reports, and new ideas back up the chain of command. And unlike that fast lane going down, this journey up is almost always much, much slower. And then there's the lateral flow. This is just people talking to their peers and colleagues on the same level. Honestly, this is where most of the day-to-day coordination and problem-solving happens. It's how things get done without having to go up and down the official ladder for every little thing.
But here's the thing. Running alongside all these official routes is the grapevine, the informal social network. The formal channels, they're structured, they're verifiable. The grapevine? It's chaotic, it jumps departments, and it's mostly fueled by rumors. But it has one massive advantage. It is unbelievably fast. A good manager knows you can't trust the grapevine for facts, but you absolutely should listen to it to get a feel for what's really going on.
So even with all these different channels, messages get scrambled, misunderstood, and just plain lost all the time. We've all been there, right? So what's getting in the way? Let's take a look at the common barriers that are tripping us up.
These barriers can be super obvious or totally invisible. A terrible Wi-Fi connection on a call? That's a physical barrier, easy to spot. But the psychological ones are way trickier. If you're stressed out, you might read a totally innocent email in a negative way. And then there are semantic traps, like using industry jargon that nobody else understands. Or even a simple word like mouse. Are you talking about the animal or the computer accessory? Every single one of these is a potential failure point.
But maybe the biggest barrier of all is when your actions scream the opposite of what your words are saying. This has a name. It's called meta-communication. It's the message about the message. So when a boss says, "My door is always open," but then they sigh and tap their watch every time you walk in, which message are you going to believe? The action. Every time. And that conflict doesn't just block one message. It erodes trust completely.
Okay, enough about what goes wrong. Let's talk about how to get it right. It's time to build out your toolkit for being a clearer, more confident, and way more effective communicator. You know, the common thread running through all of these is a shift from being passive to being active. It means you stop just waiting for your turn to talk, and you start actively listening to really understand. You don't just fire off a message and hope for the best. You actively go looking for feedback to see if it landed right. It's all about being more intentional, more empathetic, and just more aware of all the signals you're sending out.
So let's apply this toolkit to something we all love to complain about, meetings. We can actually make them useful if we just follow a simple process. And honestly, the most important step is the very first one. Just ask, is this meeting even necessary? Seriously. If the answer is yes, then all the other steps, a clear agenda, the right people, starting on time, are all about respecting everyone's time and making sure you walk away with a real outcome.
Now, for any kind of writing, whether it's a quick email or a huge report, just remember one simple rule, the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. In the business world, the goal is clarity, not trying to sound impressive with complicated words. Jargon doesn't make you sound smart, it just creates confusion. The best, most powerful ideas are the ones that people get instantly.
And finally, always think about choosing the right tool for the job. The way you send the message is part of the message itself. You wouldn't deliver tough feedback over a text message, and you probably shouldn't try to explain complex financial data over a quick phone call. Sensitive topics need the nuance of face-to-face conversation. If you need a paper trail, that's what email is for. Matching the mode to the message is a strategic move, not an afterthought.
So, to wrap things up, let's make this personal. I want you to think back to the last time you had a real communication breakdown. You know, a frustrating misunderstanding, a project that went sideways, an argument that just went off the rails. Based on everything we've talked about, can you pinpoint the barrier? Was it semantic, psychological? And maybe more importantly, what's one thing from this toolkit that you could try next time to get a better result?